View from a balcony, pulling the blue lawn chairs next to the ice chest. Stuffed 2 grams in the blunt that we just blew. Now I'm getting blown by a bitch who I don't know her name. Gold chain hanging, got a few in the room, but I don't wear them out. Only wear them in the house, cause I shine so bright that I wanna blind you.
Don't tell me you're the one who woke me up, Naruto stated as he looked at the small creature in front of him. When he did, let out a small yip and started to wag his tail and front and forth. He then sighed in irritation. He may not know much about wildlife, but he knows that was certain about 2 animals, fox and rabbits. So he was a bit more than a little dispelled that the fox had been a little thing to woke him up, because he knew that most breeding of fox were nocturnal. He then sighed as he looked at it. When he did, he got up and looked at him. Naruto tried to go back to sleep, too much the small animal disapproved. However, no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't go back to sleep. He just sat there and looked at the fox that was at the moment still staring at him. Hope you're happy now. Because of you, I'm awake and can't go to sleep. When he said this, the fox once again let out a small heap, small sigh, and this down slowly made his way up to the ground. When he was on his feet, his disgusting himself began to walk through the woods. He didn't really see the point of running now. Naruto sped up a little bit, and to his disappointment, the fox did as well. Well, he continued to slowly increase his speed until his was in a full-blown spirit sprint. As he was running, he did a little trick that he learned running from some of the villagers that he had pranked. He jumped up in the midair and turned around to see if it was behind him. When he saw, he grew a little irritated that landed on his feet, bringing himself to stop. Naruto then turned around and saw that the fox was sitting down in front of him. The blonde then hung his head in defeat and let out a sigh. Mande? In defeat and then let out a sigh. Alright then, you can come with me, Naruto said, causing the small fox to let out a slight yip. Naruto then looked at it and turned around and once again started to walk, and as he did, his stomach once again growled and he clenched his slightly. When he did, he then heard an increased footsteps and turned around to see the fox was running away. Really? I ran away from it, but I was getting hungry and it's acting like I'm going to eat it or something. Naruto sighed as he continued to walk. He then heard what he realized as running water. When he heard this, he ran towards it and saw that there was indeed a small river flowing through the middle of the woods. He then looked down to see if he could spot anything that he could possibly catch, whatever in this darkness. It did him a little no good. He could barely see 3 feet in the front of him, let alone the water. As he continued to look, he thought he heard something. When he looked to his side, he once again saw the fox, and it was looking at something in the water. Naruto then thought the small fox was helping him and smiled. However, still couldn't see where the animals were. Naruto then remembered the kunai that Sasuke had given him. Naruto then walked behind the fox and looked at where he was spotting. He took a guess where whatever he was pointing and at was and throw the kunai at. When he did, he went into the water and pulled out the kunai to reveal that nothing was on it. He sighed at this and once again heard a small fox yipping at something. This time the blonde wasted no time in running over to where the fox was and throwing the kunai on the water. When he did, went to the water this time to pull out the knife, he found that a small, almost 6 inches long fish was on the end of it. Naruto then once again heard the fox barking and ran over to where it was. He tried several times to catch several different fish. However, most of the time he didn't catch fish. After his arms got tired, he looked at what he had caught, counted 4 fishes. Well, that two for me and two for the at least for the fox, Naruto said. Looking at the small animal in front of him, he then looked inside the bag for anything at all that could help him cook the fish he had just caught. When he looked through it, he found a small lighter. Naruto smiled at his look, placing a lighter in his pocket, and then went off to find some things to build a fire with. When he walked through the woods and just picked up different sticks and he found laying on the ground when he had found that he was considering to be enough to be smart and start a fire. He walked out of the woods and once more by the river he had been at. It was around this time that he felt a few rays of the sunshine on his body, warming up his body slightly. He then placed a stick in his pile, taking out one of himself. He then looked at the lighter and lit it. When he did, he placed it in the center of the pile and waited for it slowly to build. When he saw the fire was big enough, at least on its own, he took his hand away, taking the lighter with him and waiting for the flames to become big enough to cook the fish over. When they were finally big enough, he put 2 fishes on a stick and started to slowly cook them. As he waited, he looked at the sky and saw something that looks like the Hokage hat. I wonder if Gigi made at me leaving the village. The blonde thought out loud as he looked up at the sky. When he looked back at the food he saw preparing for him and his new companion, he saw that it was about ready. He took one of the stick and handed it to the small creature in front of him. He then watched the small creature look at it for a second as if it was pouching on it something. For this caused Naruto to giggle slightly. You know, as much as I hate to admit it, the little guy is kinda cute, Naruto thought to himself. As he watched a small animal consume the fish, Naruto then shook his thoughts out to his head as he also began to eat his own fish. Once he was done with this fish, he put the 2 remaining fish on the stick and also started to cook them as well. As he did, he looked at the small fox that was at the moment trying to catch a butterfly. This once again caused him to let out a small giggle. It's kind of funny to think that you were the ones that you bite me less than a day ago. Now look at us here. We are eating fish together, Naruto thought, as he looked at the small creature. He then averted his gaze to the fish once more. He saw that these fish were almost done. Naruto then took them off the fire and looked at the fox. It wasn't paying much attention to him, so he tried something. He whistled for it. When he did, the fox looked at him and walked over him. How strange, Naruto thought, looking at it. When he then smiled and took the other fish off the stick and placed it in front of it. The fox this time wasted no time grabbing the fish and started to eat. It came to him when he called for it. Almost wild animals don't do that. Is it possible you had a master before? Naruto thought to himself, looking at the small creature. However, an odd thought then crossed his mind. However, unlikely all his previous thoughts, he said, "This one loud, we need to find names for you," he said, looking down at the small fox in front of him. Then caused the red creature to look up at him and lid its head sideways. Don't look at me that way. That, um, I mean, if we're going to be traveling together, then of course I'm going to have to call you something other than fox, Naruto said, looking at the small animal in front of him. A small animal then looked out of a small bark and looked at him, impatient. Naruto then looked up, thoughtful for a second, before he looked back down with a smile. His face, I got it. It's how about I got it now. How about we call you Kitsune? Naruto said, looking at the small creature in front of him. When he said this, the fox turned his head to the side, almost as if it was a little to the side, almost as it is was a little disappointed with his choice. Yeah, it was got everything we need in the name. It was nice, simple, easy to remember, and not hard to say, Naruto said, looking at it, the small creature animal in front of him. The fox then let out a small version of a sigh. Must have been. It then looked up at him, and then looked aside. He looked the fox that was known as Ip, no Kusune. Naruto was getting up off the ground, dusted himself off, and looked at him. Alright, Kusune, now let's go, Naruto said, looking at him. The fox nodded and followed him. As they were walking, Naruto then realized that he still had not decided where it was he wanted to go. He then looked down at the small fox in front of him and came to stop. It looks like it for a second, for he mumbled the words in front of him. It's worth a shot. When he said this he got down to the level with the animal and looked at it. I know this is kind of long shot, but do you know where any other ninja villages are here? He asked, looking at it. When he did, Kusune let out a side yip. He then began to walk off in front of the forest, completely changed direction from where he and Naruto were going. Naruto smiled and walked behind it. However, as he did, he heard a slight crash sound in the distance. He decided it to wasn't important and just decided it wasn't decided it wasn't important and just shook it off. However, as he followed